Do you guys ever do that thing when you buy something on the spur of the moment and you feel like you have to wear it a bunch of times to justify the money that you spent on it? Yeah, that's got nothing to do with this at all. Hey everyone, I'm here today in a dinosaur onesie because why not, for my May book haul. I'm so pleased to say that I was very restrained this month and I only bought 7 books. I know. Seeing as I read 4 books in May, I'm considering holding a small party to celebrate the fact that I bought less than twice the number of books that I read. You gotta celebrate the small things, guys. This first one is one that I've been seeing absolutely everywhere lately, so I took that as a sign that I should finally get around to buying it. It's The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Back in March, when I read Stardust and was just absolutely blown away by how fantastic it was, I said that I was going to go out and buy every single Neil Gaiman book in existence, but I was very restrained and I only bought this one. Although the book depository clearly thinks I need even more Neil Gaiman in my life because they sent me 2 of them. I'm not complaining. This is the only cover that I could find and I'm not super fond of it. It's a bit too busy looking for me, but it is full of these illustrations which I think are just absolutely gorgeous. I like a book with pictures. Whereas Stardust was an adult novel, this is actually a kids book. It says on the back it's for ages 10 and up, and as I'm some years above that age, I'm really keen to start it. The next book that I bought in May is an adult book by an author who actually has a really popular YA book out at the moment. That's Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I bought this one after I read and just absolutely adored Eleanor and Park. So while Eleanor and Park was about 2 teenagers, this is about 2 women in their late 20s who work at a newspaper and email back and forth, and the relationship they develop with the IT guy who monitors their emails. This was actually published in 2011, but I had never heard of it before until I went looking to see if Rainbow Rowell had published any other books because I didn't think I could wait until September when her new book comes out. This was actually crazy expensive in the hardback. I think it was about $25, but I'm a big sucker for having books by the same author matching in design, and it just looks so pretty next to Eleanor and Park. I'm really interested to see how Rainbow Rowell is going to handle adult fiction, but based on how much I adored Eleanor and Park, I have no doubt this is going to be awesome. This is super throwing off my white balance. The third book that I bought this month is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. I'm not sure why I keep buying Ray Bradbury books when I haven't read the ones that I already own. I've obviously read Fahrenheit 451 because I mentioned it in my 20th Century Book Tag video, but I also own R is for Rocket and The October Country, so I guess this one will just get added to the stack. Ray Bradbury was an amazingly versatile author, and this book fits into the gothic side of his writing rather than the sci-fi and dystopian side. This is the story of 2 13-year-old boys who have to save their town after it's taken under the control of a dark carnival, which just sounds awesome. I think this is actually almost horror, which means I'm a little bit scared to read it because I'm a giant wuss. If anyone's read this, I could do with some advice on whether I need to read it with the lights on or not, because this cover is not giving me warm fuzzy feelings. The 4th book that I bought this month is actually a history book. It's Bright Young Things, Life in the Roaring Twenties by Alison Maloney. After I finished Gatsby, I really felt like I needed something in the same theme to tide me over before I get to see the movie. This is essentially a light history book, so it contains trivia and profiles of people who were quite popular and influential during the era of the 1920s. It's essentially an introduction to American life in the 1920s, which is not something I know that much about. As well as being the nickname for that famed group of young socialites in the 1920s, the title of this book was also the original title of Evelyn Waugh's Vile Bodies. I've had a really nice copy of Vile Bodies for a while now and I just haven't gotten around to reading it, so I'm hoping that reading some more about the 20s and the 30s will encourage me to read some more books from that era. The 5th book that I bought this month is a YA title, which is pretty rare for me to buy, but I made an exception for this one. It's Delirium by Lauren Oliver. When I did the unread books tag, I talked about the 3 sort of rules I had for buying books, and with this purchase, I've officially broken rule 2. I know that I said one of my main rules was to not buy YA books because I just generally don't like them that much, but I can kind of justify this one. Back in January, I accidentally bought this really pretty edition of Pandemonium because I kind of had a brain snap and thought that this one was the first book in the series. So I figured if I already own the second one, I may as well go ahead and own the first one as well. I read this one last week and then immediately followed it up by reading Pandemonium, and now I'm desperately trying to get my hands on a copy of Requiem. If I'm going to break my own rules, I may as well break them properly. I continued that streak of breaking my buying rules by also buying a second YA title, Be More Chill by Ned Vizzini. I read It's Kind of a Funny Story last month and I really enjoyed it, so I just went to Goodreads and found the Ned Vizzini book with the second highest rating and arrived at Be More Chill. This is about Jeremy, your typical dorky high schooler who one day swallows the Squip. The Squip is this tiny supercomputer which essentially trains Jeremy on how to be cool by telling him what to wear, how to act, and how to talk. And I thought it sounded like a pretty interesting and tech-focused twist on that typical geek to chic story. It has this pretty awesome typographical cover, even though it has this really annoying Today book stamp thing on here, which isn't a sticker and I can't peel it off. Why? Why would you do that? I think I have quite expectations from this because of how much I loved It's Kind of a Funny Story, and I'm about this far into it, and to be honest, I'm not enjoying it so far. It's not that well written and I'm finding Jeremy extremely irritating, but you know, I'm less than a quarter of the way through, so hopefully it'll pick up soon. The last book that I bought this month is actually a graphic novel which I've been really interested in reading for quite some time now. That's Ghost World by Daniel Close. I decided to get this one because I've seen and really enjoyed the film that's based on it, and while I was watching the film I could almost picture it as a graphic novel. Ghost World was originally serialized in the comic book 8 Ball and then was loosely adapted into a film which was released in 2001. Ghost World is the story of Enid and Rebecca, two teenagers who have recently graduated high school and now spend their time wandering around their small town, criticising and ridiculing pop culture and society in general. Just flicking through this, I really love the art style and that the only colour they've used is this rather sickly colour green. It took me 2 attempts to get through this film. The first time I just couldn't get into it at all, but the second time it really grew on me and I could see myself all too easily as that pseudo-intellectual 17-year-old fitting in with Enid and Rebecca perfectly. So I'm hoping that I have the same sort of reaction to the graphic novel. I haven't started this one yet, but obviously it's not going to take me too long to read, so I'm hoping that I can squeeze it in sometime soon. So those are the 7 books that I bought in May. I'm pretty impressed by how much variety there was in there actually. There was middle grade, YA, adult, history, and even a graphic novel. I had a really unproductive reading month in May, which I will talk about more in my wrap up, but I'm hoping by branching out and having a little bit of choice available, it'll encourage me to keep reading when I otherwise feel stuck or bored by what I've got. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!